Hi, everyone. Nice to see you guys in Alberta today. As Aaron introduced, I am Alex. I'm Manager of Education and Evaluation at Sport for Life. I have a background in research around physical activity and health promotion. And I have been the Sport for Life contact on the physical literacy environmental assessment tool as it has been created over the last couple of years. So without further ado, I'll get started, and then we'll have a chance for some questions at the end as well.
Awesome, thank you.
So one of the key questions that we came up with as this tool was started to be thought about is, like, how do we know if we've developed physical literacy? Well, it's sometimes hard, but we have to measure it, and there's subjective ways of measuring it, there's objective ways of measuring it, and a lot of the ways that have been developed thus far are measuring it at the individual level, whether it's using the PLEA tools or the Canadian Assessment for Physical Literacy, the CAPLE tool, or using PHE Canada's Passport for Life. Those are all individual tools for assessing a specific individual's physical literacy. However, there is no tool for assessing how well a program actually is developing physical literacy. And is it just normal progression of being in the program, or is it actually the things that the instructors are doing that is going to make it so that it's a quality physical literacy program? So we found that despite all of these tools being out there at the individual level, we needed something to help us assess the program so that we could demonstrate how they are supporting the development of physical literacy and be able to see how year over year a program might be changing. What are some of the barriers? What are some of the things that are supporting successes? So with that in mind, developing the PLEA tool, initially it was an RBC Learn to Play grant that was used to fund some of the development of the tool. And it was piloted in 2014, and then we went through and there was some testing and validation done in Hamilton, Ontario, and then there was a national consultation that occurred this past summer around the tool, and then the tool will be in its final form released this January for public use. So in phase one, it was found that the tool as it stood, just figuring out what we wanted to capture, we wanted to be able to have a way to capture some comments and feedback on what people felt was helping or hindering their involvement in a particular domain. Also wanted to add more relevance to the questions, because sometimes there's different things that, depending on where you're located in Canada, that may or may not be relevant. So in my case, out here in Victoria, there's not a lot of experiences or opportunities for a program to have ice or snow as an environment that gets developed. Whereas in Alberta, where you guys are, there's a lot more opportunities. So some of the things and the questions on there may or may not be relevant and need to be considered. We also wanted to be able to get more responses after the initial pilot in phase one. So it was then in phase two distributed to more groups in a wider variety of sectors. And we needed to have a way to actually validate the scores that are being come in. Did the physical literacy environmental assessment actually assess what we said it was going to do? So this was the phase two tool that was done in 2015 to 2017 and shared. And it had four key themes. So it was assessing environment, it was assessing the physical literacy programming that was being offered, it was assessing how the leaders and staff supported the development of physical literacy, and how the overall program organization supported the values and goals around developing physical literacy. Questions from there ranged, as you can see the one on the screen, access to opportunities for activity in a variety of environments, if that was something that was relevant to a program or not. And then you can see that if checked, what can your program do to meet this indicator? Or sorry, if not checked, what can your program do to meet this indicator, and comment on any barriers that might be in the way of you not meeting that indicator, as well as how can your program improve on this indicator. We had 100 Hamilton child and youth active programs piloted. It was in a range of settings, from after school to PE classes to a number of different sports. And in this phase 2, we wanted to see were we actually measuring physical literacy and in physical literacy development in these programs. So out of these 100 programs, 20%, we invited the 20% of these 100 programs to participate in a second stage that involves using the Play Fun, the Play Self, the Play Parent, and a parent perceptions questionnaire, so that we could see if a program scored high on the PLEA tool, was there actually a higher score in physical literacy as well in that program, or was it, or if they scored low on a PLEA tool, did they also have a low score around physical literacy in that environment? And same thing, did the parent perceive that if the program scored high on the PLEA tool, did the parent perceive that the program was developing the children's physical literacy? And out of this, like the 20 programs were selected by taking out of those 100 programs that completed it, we took the highest 10% and the lowest 10% to then do the Play Fun, the Play Self, the Play Parent, and the Parent Perceptions questionnaire. This is a breakdown of the different programs that were included, a wide range of different activities. All of the kids that participated in the programs were between the ages of 7 and 14. This is the different activities that were represented.
Hey Alex, can I just hold it for 1 second?
Sure.
Yeah, some of the groups are saying that you're coming through a little bit staticky. I was wondering maybe you can adjust your microphone a little bit. We can hear you okay here, but it seems that a little staticky. So
I've heard some static in the background of myself as well.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if there is an echo coming in somewhere.
Okay.
Or not. I have this. I am hearing the static as well.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. See if I can fix it.
I'm not sure. Can you mute the line where you are right now, Aaron?
Yeah. Give me a second here.
Yeah. Let's try that. See if that makes it a little better, maybe. Does that sound clearer? It sounds a little clearer to me at this point. If anyone can type in the chat box if that sound has improved for them. Okay, well, I'll keep talking and feel free to type in the chat box if there's something else. I have less static now, so it might have been an echo coming from the Alberta Sport connection. So I'll continue. Here's the list of activities again. You've had lots of time to look at. And these are the results. So this is, you're looking at the highest 10% and the lowest 10% and on the environment. And so for example, the environment questions, there's 6 different areas. Well, there were 7 in phase 2. Now in phase 3, it's down to 6. So 7 being the highest possible score that you could get, and then 0 being the lowest. And you got 1 point for each thing that was identified as being that yes, you are doing in your program. So maximum of 7, lowest of 0. And you can see that in the highest 10% of the 100 programs that were assessed, they were getting close to 7, whereas the lowest 10% were getting under 6. And then you can see that average line there. Same thing with the programming. You can see there was a much more greater difference between them. The maximum score was 10 for choosing that they do various things related to programming on the PLEA tool. And then the lowest score again is 0. And so we had about 6.5 for the lowest 10% and almost 10 for the highest 10%. Here's the staff and leadership. Again, this case, maximum possible score was 6 and the lowest was 0. And you can see that that lowest 10% versus the highest 10% of those 100 programs, there was a great difference observed between them. Same with the values and goals of the overall program. And then looking at the results that were done using the Play Fun and the Play Self, there was a significant difference in the play fund scores between that high and low groups. So the PLEA tool, as a result, we determined was able to differentiate between programs that had participants who scored high versus low. So if the overall score on the PLEA tool, combining all those 4 domains, was high, we found that that also was related to having a higher play fund score or a higher play self score. If your overall PLEA score was low, it did relate to having a lower play fund score and a lower play self score on individual physical literacy. Based on the feedback from phase 2, we did some revisions on the questionnaire, and that's where, as I said, the environment went from having 7 indicators to having 6, just based on the ones that we did some analysis of the various factors to see which ones should be kept, which ones should be removed. And then in June and July this past year, we circulated the PLEA tool and a survey about it nationally. And participants then completed the tool online and provided additional feedback on it around the importance of it for program planning, delivery, and evaluation, and how satisfied people were with the tool and how relevant it was to their area of practice, and if they thought they would actually use it as well. Out of this research, or these responses, we got responses from across Canada, as well as a few international. 335 online surveys were received, and a number of those did come from Alberta. So thanks for those of you that helped circulate it. I know Active for Life was great in sharing it on their website, and Repsol, you had a number of your programs complete it, and we really appreciated that feedback to help us refine it. Again, it came from a number of different sectors. At this point, we're continuing to review the actual responses and make some minor modifications to the survey based on feedback from the participants. And then the updated version that'll be available for public use will be available in January 2018 at the Sport for Life Summit. We've found that this tool, out of the groups that were using it in the pilot in June and July, a couple of them have been using it as benchmarking. So one group is planning to, they used it in June and July, and they had 12 of their programs use it. They have held on to the data as well. The McMaster has it as well, but they've held on to that data, and then they're going to use the same tool again 6 months later, and then 6 months after that, to be able to see where has the program been making changes. So that some of the PLEA tool helped them identify some barriers. And now, is that program taking this sort of assessment of how they're doing and actually making efforts to improve the physical literacy environment that they are offering? Are they providing additional training? How has that impacted what that environment creates? Because as we found in phase 2, those that score high on the PLEA tool were doing a better job of supporting individual physical literacy development as well. So this is just acknowledgement of the key people who've been a part of this program. We've really appreciated the support from the RBC Learn to Play project and the City of Hamilton, Sport Hamilton, and the Healthy Kids Community Challenge. It's been great, the work that Hillary has been leading out of McMaster. She's a PhD student there with Dr. Brian Timmons. And if you have any specific questions about the actual tool or want to know more specifics about the actual research or things, Hillary is the one to speak with, as she's the one currently compiling all of the data and the results. So that's what I have right now. I'd like to open the floor, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or maybe talk about some other ways that you think this could be useful within your programs and in the work that you do.
Well, awesome, Alex. Thanks so much. I think one question is that's when it's rolled out again for everybody. We have some leaders in the room within their sports. So how do we not just sell this, but try to show value to our clubs to utilize tools such as these? Like, what is the driving message that you think that we have to move on?
Well, one of the key things that we want to see in our programs and our clubs is that they are quality programs and that they are supporting the development of physical literacy. If this is used, I really see its value as being that benchmarking tool. So it can be something that can be used at the start, middle, end of the season, or just a couple times as a check-in to see, is the program actually doing what it should be doing to support physical literacy? Are they providing access to more than one environment for activity? Are they providing appropriate equipment for the skill level? Is the space and facility and equipment, are they available for structured and free play? Are they inclusive facilities? And I think having something that can be a reference point of what are best practices, and then thinking about where a program might be doing well or not in meeting that indicator is a good way to find out where improvements can be made in a program. So if different PSO clubs could use it as a way to see where they could improve, that's a great way to target time and energy into resources. I think on the slide, if I go back, I'm going to just go back a couple. If you look here on the PLEA tool for staff and leadership, you can notice that those low scoring groups, they were quite low on staff and leadership. And that would then indicate to a group, if you scored low on the PLEA tool in staff and leadership, maybe you should provide some more education around physical literacy, and Pro D in the next year should focus on that. And then you could do the PLEA tool again later at the end of the year to see if that actually did change the score and move it up.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. I mean, in the business world, accountants provide financial statements to managers to better make decisions for their business. So this is just one of those great tools that, a board can utilize for reinvestment or looking at different things within the association themselves or the club. So awesome. Vicki, if a program or organization cannot or does not meet the standards, are there questions that help these groups find others to partner with to improve their programming or how to improve their score? Thoughts on that question?
So one of the questions on it, it says, what can your program do to meet this indicator? And how can your program further improve in this area? There's not directly links to resources at this point. I do see that as being where it's hosted online, is that there would be some supporting resources there as well, but it's not built into the actual questionnaire. But those questions are built in to help have some self-reflection so that people can think about where or how maybe they can make improvements, because it is very specific to each organization and each program as to how those improvements might be made, because it depends on the environment, it depends on the kids, it depends on your leadership. So right now it's more in a self-reflection sort of way, and then the intention is when it's shared online that there will be some supporting resources, or here's some examples of best practices if you'd like to know more.
So do you think the action plans and the resources, are they going to be able to utilize across the landscape, or is it going to be very specific to each activity, like per sport? Or is Natix going to be able to set the application with triathlon?
A lot of the things are very general that can be done and then tailored to an individual sport. Whether it's things like having sport, like I said before, the appropriate equipment for each participant's age, size, and skill level, that's one way that can easily be like sort of reflected upon, and that's different for each sport. So you have to be a little creative with what can be done. I'm going to try to put up on my screen right now the actual tool. If I just end the slideshow. This is an export of it from online, so I'm going to scroll down to the leaders and staff program. And one of the questions is, program leaders are certified by the appropriate governing bodies relevant to the activity. So in the case of triathlon, that might mean having a proper NCCP certification. If it's with younger kids, maybe that's taking the NCCP FMS course, or I'm not as familiar with the exact coach training around triathlon, but making sure that people are trained. Maybe it's that they've completed an online learning around physical literacy as well, so that they have that training and knowledge that they can then apply in their settings.
Awesome. From the ASC perspective, are any of these questions included in current reporting? Excellent question, Vicki. So certainly with the new Alberta Sport framework, funding framework, there will be components of these types of things within that framework, and we're talking about the Association Development Program. So this is something that we've been working towards, and will encompass what it means to be a great PSO, right? All these different components. So yes, it is coming.
Is it possible to get a copy of that, or will it be available to us?
Did you hear that, Alex?
Yeah, a question like a copy of the PLEA tool. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
I will check with Hillary and see what I am able to share, and we can see what can be shared at this point. As I said, they are doing revisions at this point, so I'm not 100% sure, and I just need to go through her on that.
This is the gauge on which we are being measured. It might be a good idea to have that information. I know we have.
Certainly these specifics won't, yeah. But this is, for sure.
And you'll see, like, some of these questions, they're things that you're probably already doing in different ways. So it's nothing is really crazy. It's just trying to capture it so that you have a way to track it or reflect on it in ways that you haven't in the past. Like, program leaders are encouraged and supported to continuously improve and update their knowledge and expertise. Program leaders help motivate and encourage participants by being inclusive and positive. A lot of these things are already sort of incorporated into what is being done and what we would think of as, oh yeah, that makes sense as a thing to do as a best practice. And this is just the check and the balance of, is it actually happening?
Okay. Another question from Vicki. I wonder if having physical literacy in the title will be a deterrent for sport. We're also promoting the quality sport concept and checklists. How can we blend these two? Excellent question.
That's a good point, Vicki. They are similar in some of the ways. The quality sport checklist addresses a little bit more around things like meaningful competition, and if sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It addresses the element of competition that maybe aren't as relevant to a program more focused on developing physical literacy. I think that they complement each other very well, the quality sport checklist as well as the PLEA tool, and they're assessing slightly different things, and there might be a benefit to using one in some more of the developmental programs versus one in more competitive programs.
Excellent. Did anybody do the PLEA tool in the room? No? So, any other comments? Any comments online if you want to put in the chat box for Alex? Doesn't look like any other comments. Oh, yeah, what?
Hi there. It's Leah here in Edmonton.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Leah. Yeah.
Vicki just sent a comment in as well. We were trying to speak, so you knew we were sending something. I don't know if Vicki, you want to speak to your comment? Can you hear us okay?
You bet.
Yeah, it's actually Lori Davis from Rocky Mountain House is with us, so it's great. We've got the four of us tag teaming here at Rundle Park, and I'm assuming these are early days with both the PLEA tool as well as the quality sport indicators. But in going forward, I would really hope that these are extremely compatible. And I know, Alex, you mentioned that the meaningful competition might be one of the differences, and yet, to be quite honest, I think it's such a small difference that hopefully the message going forward is that these are much more cohesive and comprehensive than they are different. And maybe just your thoughts on that.
Vicky, I haven't actually seen the most recent iteration of the quality sport checklist. So you raising that is a great point for making sure that I'm cross-referencing it, and I'll bring it to Hillary's attention if she hasn't seen it yet. I do agree that I think they are quite similar in what they're going for, and it's, I mean, we always struggle with, if you say sport, sometimes you alienate some of the people in other recreation areas. If you say physical literacy and don't say sport, you alienate some of the people in sport. So it's a fine balance with the wording. I think both are accomplishing the same thing, and I agree we need to make sure that they are aligned, if not integrated into one tool to make things simple and straightforward for people to assess a program environment.
Yeah. I think it's Leah here, and I'm just kind of back to the point around the term physical literacy and thinking about, you know, the sport partners at Repsol Sports Center, and, you know, we have some work to do around the physical literacy and them recognizing that as part of their role on an ongoing basis. I think there's some recognition, obviously, at the early stages, but I feel like if we give them a tool that said, here, fill out this physical literacy assessment, they would not even think that that was relevant to them at this point. And so obviously that's some work we have to do on our end. But I do think, you know, that is something to think about. And I'd like to hear maybe from the other PSOs about that. And, you know, where can we tie this to other measures that are already happening? Because, you know, to spend the time to go through this assessment when they're being asked to do other things, that maybe it's better to try to embed it in other things because they don't see it necessarily, you know, in the same way that we would, those of us who are working in it all the time.
Comments to Leah on that one?
Should I move closer to the microphone? Yeah.
So Diane is going to respond to that one.
Working with a sport like rhythmic gymnastics, where we're going from the very basic active sport through to high-level competitive, I think that not only do you have to have physical literacy at the base and quality sport happening, but you also have to make sure that physical literacy doesn't get lost from the competitive side as well, because you can get great volleyball players who don't know how to strike a ball any other way than like a volleyball player. You can get somebody who can do gymnastics, but doesn't know how to ride a horse or play soccer. And so the best programming, and I've seen some of it at Repsol actually, where they take a portion of the year to do cross training and provide opportunities to be in different environments for their highest level athletes. And so that to me would be a really good integration of physical literacy, the PLEA tool, and then quality sport indicators moving forward. But don't forget the competitors need the all-round experience, the same as the kids coming into a program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I totally agree. I think it's just more getting the buy-in from the sports at the, you know, at the outset. But I totally agree with that. Vicky's just typing a comment here as well.
Vicky asked, does anyone remember the PLAD mapping project, physical literacy and athlete development?
No.
Silence.
When was that?
Can you hear me, Aaron?
Now I can, yeah.
Great. So, and this was actually when Shauna and Owen were still with, might have even still been the foundation.
Yeah.
But Ozzie Sawicki and I, we started what was called a PLEA mapping project, knowing that physical literacy was an essential underpinning of quality athlete development. And so we called it the PLEA mapping project, physical literacy and athlete development, so that those people that got squirrely about one term or the other, we made it all in and allowed for various aspects of the mapping to emerge. Now, my point isn't so much about the mapping project per se, it's about the language. How do we continue to inform sport, recreation, schools, and so on, that physical literacy and athlete development and all that goes into high performance sport are more married and more connected than either side wants it to be. I think that just will remain in front of us, but I would caution against any separation of those two to make it easier for either side of this issue to feel comfortable with that schism, because that would actually be a huge setback. Just my thought.
No, I think that makes sense, especially from our conversations this morning. Absolutely. Sebastian had a comment from triathlon.
Just coming back to Diane's point. This is coming back to Diane's point a few minutes ago, where the physical literacy might be lost on the high performance end. So an idea that I've thought by my ED and our board now is to actually partner with other sport organizations so that we can involve multiple sports in training camps. So one of the ones that we were hoping to pilot over the winter time is a partnership with Pentathlon, because they already do the swimming and biking, and now just introduce shooting and fencing for some of our younger athletes, just so they don't lose other skills as well. So.
Did everybody hear that? Yeah, so absolutely. Collaboration, partnerships, and engagement, 100%. We want to see that more across the system, for sure.
It's cheaper, you already have the same facility, you cut your costs in half.
Absolutely.
It's also a great thing because you never know if an athlete's going to transition later in their life from one sport to another. So if you can help set them up with some of those skills, even just that exposure, as you were saying, to different things, it might mean that that's a future opportunity for them to continue being active later in life if they have an injury or something. It's just giving them more tools in their toolbox to use.
Love it. Awesome. Any other comments? Anything from the group in Calgary? No. Okay. Well, thanks for this discussion today, guys. I think it was a great kickstart for our theme for the rest of for this year. I'd like to thank everybody online, and a special thank you to Alex at Sport for Life. It's always great to have your guys' expertise and your commitment across the country, so thanks so much. And again, our negive session, look really forward to hearing about the municipal things going on and how the PSOs can give value back to that and benefit themselves. Again, all the information will be on our website under Sport for Life. And when you guys are going past somebody's office or you're having somebody conversation in the morning, have them bring them along. Why not? Engage in the conversation. Okay. Awesome. So thanks to everybody. Oh, Dallas. Yeah, we'll work on that. Yeah, Vicky, that's right. We'll speak with Alex and get that on our website. So awesome. Thanks so much, everybody.